So, discussing all the topics tonight, my brilliant panel. Joining me tonight, we have Andrew Eborn and Diane Spencer. Look at them. They're ready to go over there. So, to get to the bottom of this, I'm joined tonight by my illustrious panel, the lawyer, I believe.
The lawyer.
I'm nervous. Andrew Eborn.
I think I should make you nervous. I think it's wonderful.
I can't pick on you because you're a lawyer. You might pick on me back and
pick on me. I need another house, so do pick on me.
Meanwhile, comedian and famous fudge maker, Diane Spencer. I can't pick on her either, otherwise you might cut off me fudge supply. Tricky one, too. So, if you're the PM, is the rule simply you don't take freebies?
Oh, no, it's very simple. He's broken the rules, and the biggest rule he's broken is hypocrisy. And you're absolutely right. When you remember that Boris Johnson was there and they had Carrie doesn't live here anymore, but she picked this amazing wallpaper, and the headlines would scream out, interior resigns, and glorious puns like this. Yeah. Well, this is now the Frocky Horror Show, because the amount of money was spent on the wonderful Lady Starmer and her cloths is actually what the rules say. It's OK to get these gifts, but you have to report it within a certain time, and he failed to do that. So it's the optics which are wrong, and the reason he has these thousands of pounds spent on glasses is so he can see the whole hypocrisy.
Oh, but now, to push back a little, I suppose, as a former glasses wearer myself, the risk is, if you're out there on the trail, you know, pressing the flesh, kissing babies and stuff, one of those babies smacks your glasses, you break your glasses, you need spares.
Oh, very convincing.
He had to buy lots of spares glasses. He might have, depends what these babies do, he might get through a lot of suits. So he needed a lot of clothes.
Yeah, but I do think that the biggest crime here is not the hypocrisy, it's the crime to fashion. I mean, you can tell that this was just purely monetary, because no designer ever wants Keir Starmer wearing their clothes. The man looks like the photocopier ran out of ink. There is no way that anybody in their right mind in the fashion world actually wants Sir Keir to wear their clobber. Not even Mrs. Keir. I know that she wants to go in. Hey, you put Angela Rayner down.
Come on.
Put her down.
But isn't that good? I mean, this is the outfit. This is the look that Keir Starmer should be. This is the Jolly Green Giant. You can tell thousands of pounds have been spent on this. And I think we should start that campaign. I don't think he's had nearly enough. He should spread out the money that he gave to Lady Starmer and give a little bit to Angela. She deserves it.
But now they've all said that they won't be taking free clothes. You condemn someone to stay in that look. Surely now you should do a reverse ferret and change
I think credit where credit's due. No, we want our politicians to look like politicians so they can be represented around the world on the appropriate sort of level. It's been going on forever. These are what the rules say. The problem is it mustn't be sort of, there's certain procedures you have to follow. There's a time limit within which you have to do it. And it's all about the optics. And it's all about this stuff you can talk about from things, but what was it, £8,750 for a box at Arsenal? And I think that's what they start at, these corporate boxes, because it's not safe for him to go otherwise. Well, look, he could afford it, you know. Doing that is not good for the optics. You turn on that sort of basis. What I don't get is, I always say history repeats itself because we don't learn the lessons from history. And throughout history, people said, well, hang about, if I just do this, I have this photo with that person, or I say this, it won't come out again. The reality is, everything you say, everything you do will come back to bite you. So he should have known. His advisors, the sultans of spin, should have told him originally.
Yeah, I mean, this is politically naive, surely, isn't it? Not that they necessarily knew there'd be a winter fuel allowance cut coming, but anything they had to do was going to be compared to how much money they'd just been given.
I mean, it was ridiculous that they did actually, at the same time, say, sorry, you're not going to have the ability to heat your homes. Well, you should have taken up that money. You know, oh, it's all the Tories' fault. They didn't tell you that you were allowed some of this winter fuel allowance. They can't do that. And then at the exact same time, they're calling it wardrobe gate.
Terrible one, isn't it?
I know.
Wardrobe gate. Frocky Horror Show is better.
Yeah,
Come on.
Much better.
Come on, I'll get my royalties. It's got to be good. No, it's a wardrobe
But
gate.
you can't do it at the same time. No. You can't tell, like, all the elderly people, like you said, put on another jumper when this guy's got truckloads of jumpers turning up at his house just for free.
It is sickening, actually. And actually talking about that, when people do have the choice between heating or eating this Christmas, and you're turning around, you take away the winter fuel allowance from certain pensioners, it's got to be wrong. And I go back to what I was saying beforehand. He must have known that it was going to come out at some stage. It's much better that he declared it. It wasn't until the 17th of September, just a few days ago, that this all came out. And all of a sudden he said, oh, I've been found out and therefore I'll stop doing it.
Should the rules get changed, though? Because we're all saying, oh, it's the optics rather than the rules. Well, let's get the rules that fit the optics. Let's put the rule in place that if someone offers you a couple of grand for some clothes, buy your own kit.
I'll tell you what the rules say. It says the gift should be of a nominal value. Well, several £1,000s probably isn't nominal. nominal. It must be given for an appropriate reason, and it must be a sort of one-off, not a regular thing. And obviously, they mustn't do it for a particular favour. So the extraordinary things on this is it's a good old
fail.
Lord Ali, a lovely chap, Lord Ali, really, but he's the former ASOS chairman. He's clearly worked from ASOS, you know, several £1,000s. But the reality was exactly that. So you've got to turn around. Why are people giving these gifts? That's the first thing you have to ask. If they're giving it, it's supposed to be without fear or favour. Clearly, you're expecting something in return, aren't you?
That is the thing. This is the thing. Even if Andrew's making a false point, even if you're making bear with.
Okay.
If he's wrong, it sounds good. That's the problem. So even if you could prove, you could say, look, there's never been a link between any of the things bought and any favours. The problem is, it's the stink that I talk about in the sniff test.
Yeah, it is the sniff test.
But, you said that it would have to be an appropriate gift.
Yes.
So in terms of clothing, it would make sense if Sir Keir Starmer was like going to a building site and they gave him a gift of, this is your official hard hat. That would make sense.
Yeah.
But it kind of...
Do you think they own their own hard hats when they turn up? Because whenever there's a flood, so the Prime Minister has to turn up with a mop. Do you think they have to buy their own mops?
They can give him a mop.
Yeah.
Right? And then what he should do is he should do what the Americans do, because, you know, they're always, selling and auctioning off any pen that signs something into law.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer, if he wants to raise extra money, whatever mop he uses to clean up the next mess, he should label it, this mop was used by the Prime Minister.
But you say that when Lady Thatcher, they had a big auction, I went along to it, and all her clothes were sort of sold there and things like that. So you're absolutely right. Keir's gear, we could do that at Christie. We could do that at
The side question that you might want to ask is, how often do you wear that blue dress?
Well, all the time. Every Thursday night you should see me in that blue dress. I look sensational.
You're the kind of lady that is for turning, aren't you?
I'll go back to Angela's stuff. I'll tell you, I could be the Jolly Green Giant. Work on that basis. I think it's fantastic. No, I think that's the reality. I go back to what I was saying beforehand. There mustn't be. The optics on this are appalling. It's about the hypocrisy and calling Boris out, standing at the dispatch box and calling about wallpaper. Well, here we are.
Well, that's the other option that we've not talked about. The other option is you just never pick on anyone for not sticking to the rules or being a bit sleazy and just think, you know what?
Oh, don't get into politics. You've got to pick on people.
No, listen, let me finish the point, Andrew. He's a lawyer, this guy. Because then, if you're never the anti-sleaze guy and someone comes along, do you want an Arsenal box? Yes, I do, mate.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Oh, help yourself. This is why I became PM. No, you've got to work on that sort of basis. But you're right. The optics are wrong. And if you change the rules for everybody, but also look at other countries. In America, I think they get 50 grand or whatever it is as an allowance for their clothes, which is great. So Donald has several red ties to match his eyes. So it works on that sort of basis. And that's what they do. I go back to my point. You want our politicians to look great. And if you're working on that basis, I think it's important. Around the world, they're representing the United Kingdom. The optics on this, however, are wrong. It should have been done in accordance with the rules.
But who funds that then? So if they get 50 grand, it can't come from taxpayers, because then the story would be you're cutting winter fuel allowance and we're buying you 50 grand worth of food.
And also, who decides what looks great? Because I'm sorry, but you have been taking pot shots at Angela's green suit. At least she made a statement. At least she did something that was new. I mean, she's got her very own unique style.
Unique. There's a reason it's unique, though, Diane. You do know that. Do you like it? Can I ask you, do you like it then?
It's not for me, but it's her, she has...
Is it for anybody? We should do a poll. Is it anybody would like to wear that? I'll buy it for them. Anybody who wants to do that, I'll buy it for them now.
We'll throw in Thatcher's blue dress as well.
The first person to text me, we'll do it 30 seconds. Time's almost up. But the reality is that, though, I don't think it's a particularly good look. It's not one for me, but if she wants it, who cares? Work on that sort of basis. She probably paid for it for herself. I certainly was sponsored tonight, so that's all very good. I'm very grateful to my sponsors, so keep it all going. No.
Listen, we better crack on, speaking of sponsors and all that. Coming up, we will assess the week's winners and losers. This week, we'll be looking at Ed Davey's latest attempts to stay relevant, further developments in the battle between Elon Musk and Brazil, and Air Miles' Emma Thompson is telling us to fly less. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Saturday Night Showdown with me, Stephen Allen, for tonight. And now it's time to go through the winners and losers of the week. The Liberal Democrats, and guess which, had their annual conference this week to no fanfare whatsoever. That didn't stop Ed Davey trying hard to bring a bit of attention to himself.
Let me go and be around. You got no place to go if you leave that.
Now, if you're watching that at home, you saw what happened if you're listening on radio. That was not an animal being abused in any way. That was Ed Davey singing. Now, whilst you could salute the Lib Dem campaign for making Ed Davey seem funny, a feat previously seeming impossible, but has he gone a bit too far at this point, trying to just...
I love it. He's got Van Gogh's ear for music, hasn't he? I think... It's a great story. No, he's brilliant. It was P.T. Barnum who used to say, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. Well, everybody's mocking him and so on and so forth. That's what he wants. He wants the media exposure. And to their credit, they got 72 seats. They only got 12.2% of the vote, I think it was. They got 72 seats. What happens? The Reform Party, this tie is just coincidental. I'm not the Reform Party. The Reform Party got 14.2%, 2% more, and they got 5 seats. So he should be celebrating. He should be all these stunts, and it works on that sort of basis.
Yeah, but to be fair, like you said that P.T. Barnum said start a fight. Now, to be fair, I would pay money to see that man in the ring with someone, but I'm not sure. I would like to see him, like, there's got to be a couple of journalists we can get from this place. I think Nana would kill him. She would. She'd kill him. She does gymnastics. Yeah, she'd be intense. I think. I mean, we could pick people out. I think Eamon Holmes. No, I wouldn't want to see Eamon get hurt. I'd be worried that Ed Davey would get.
Ed Davey could take him.
I'd be worried about that. That singing was quite incredible. I was reminded, do you remember when Britney Spears did the VMAs in 2007 and she was plastered?
She was.
Yeah.
Well, like, she had more panache than what we just saw.
I think you're right.
Well, look, I think we've got to be... He probably didn't realise the mic was on. He should have done a John...
Sorry,
he should have done a John Redwood.
He's the leader of the Lib Dems.
He should have mimed, like, you know, like John Redwood with a
He should have brought on, he should have turned around and said, please welcome to the stage, Theresa May! And she could have come on with Dancing Queen. He could have sung to that as well. And I would have seen that fight. That would have been brilliant. We absolutely love it.
Theresa May's got the reach.
She has got the reach.
Yeah.
She's good, you know. I think she was. Yeah. But she's very dangerous. Remember, she used to go little dancing crop fields. Remember, that was her. How naughty have you been? What's the naughtiest thing you've ever done in life?
Well, she did make the entire...
crop circles.
The entire country think that aliens existed.
Well, they do exist. What are you talking about?
You fell for it. It's a Theresa May prank.
Hang on.
You fell for May, the only legacy she seems to have.
I think that what I would like more from Ed Davey is I see the stunt and they take up a lot of time with the stunts, you know, it's down the water slide or whatever, and I still don't quite know what he stands for. So I've thought of a stunt that he could do so that we get to actually hear about his ideas. I thought he could read out the manifesto whilst eating chilies that get steadily hotter on the Scoville heat scale. Yeah. So he starts off with a little bird's eye chili. Maybe he ends up with a Scotch bonnet.
A Scotch bonnet is good.
Yeah.
That's a euphemism, though, for a stunt, isn't it? That's amazing. But I love it. I'll tell you what I'd like to see more.
That sounds terrible. I've just seen Ed Davey munching on a Scotch bonnet for a stunt.
Honestly, what I love, what I'd like to see more from Ed Davey actually is less. I think seeing less of Ed Davey would be a good point. I think the people there, they love him in the same way as the Reform Party conference. They go crazy about Nigel. I think Ed Davey is their superstar, and let them have their superstar. I think that's fine.
But there's never been a worse time to be the third party with such a majority. It's pointless. There's never really going to be a time when you've got to go, oh, come please, Lib Dems, vote for us.
Yeah, so 72 seats. I mean, you do wonder. I mean, don't you? I mean, they're obviously there somewhere. It is their best performance for a long time.
Do you know the worst time to do your best performance?
You're the worst time to sing. Yeah. No, you're right. I think it works on that basis.
No, but you've just identified something.
Yes.
You're right about it too much Ed Davey.
Yes.
Well, if they want to get more people into the Lib Dems and take advantage of this moment that they're the third party, they need to get more characters. They kind of need to literally make like the Lib Dem Spice Girls, where we're not just looking at not just stunt Spice, which is Ed Davey. They need to have a couple more that we start to recognise, because I can't think of any other Lib Dem MP apart from Ed Davey, because he's always shooting down water slides.
At some point, someone's going to get injured. It's all fun and games, all this love nonsense until someone loses.
The Liberal Spice Democrats, the LSD. We could do that.
Go wrong?
I reckon what could go wrong with that. It's going to be good. You're right.
How is Musk Yeah, how can they hold Musk to account if they've already shut down any of his businesses and he's not allowed in Brazil?
This is the big problem. I have Elon Musk's father on my show all the time. Every week he's there.
Okay.
Errol, who's a brilliant guy, and I talked to him about this. Freedom of speech has never been in a more critical position. We've had the CEO of Telegram was arrested in France. We've had Brazil, basically, they've stopped X. That was the idea. Originally, it was done through Starlink, which was another one of Elon's companies. And then, basically, Brazilians, I think there's about 21 million active users in Brazil of X. They started using these VPNs, a virtual private network. And what happened is the Brazilian government said, we're going to fine you up to $9,000 a day if you do that. So all of a sudden, this other one came out, and I think it's done through Cloudflare, is the name of what it is. And basically, they could access their X accounts accordingly. But it's a really, really scary time. We've got to call it out, because a lot of what's happening now is they're trying to shut down freedom of speech. And it's our fundamental right. We've got to talk out about it.
And I know at the start I did say, it's hard to control the internet. But at the moment, Brazil are kind of winning.
Well, I think that's the sad... If the world turns around, actually, the White House this week, J.D. Vance, which always sounds like a cheap department store, doesn't it? J.D. Vance. You all of a sudden had that road to Damascus moment with Donald Trump. He used to call him, do you remember, he called him the American Hitler in 2016. And that's what he said. Those are his words. And he basically said, well, that's what I thought about him in 2016. I've seen what a brilliant president he is. That's why I now could be his running mate. But what he said that they basically will stop funding things like NATO and so on and so forth if you start blocking Elon Musk and shutting him up. And we have to have a platform where people can speak about things. And that's the difficulty.
Yeah, but does it have to be X? You see, like, the Brazilian government would easily argue, well, we will create our own social media platform. I mean, Trump, for example, he created Truth Social because he felt that his identity was being suppressed online. I mean, it is very important to get it out there and get all this freedom of speech out there. What amazes me is that as soon as it went online, so many people flooded to use it.
Yes.
Like, how did they know that it was suddenly coming online? It must have just spread like wildfire, and it shows that there's a real need for it out there. I mean, I mainly use it for cat memes, I'll be honest with you.
I love seeing your cat memes. There we go. You've got no kids and a cat woman. There you go. You and Britney Spears and Taylor Swift and various others make on that sort of principle. No, the reality is this. It's really, really worrying stuff. 21 million users in Brazil. That's what they wanted. What happened, the reason it was shut down originally was two things. Is one, he didn't have a representative there, which was supposed to under Brazilian law. Yeah. And secondly, he started allowing people who were against the government to say things. So it really is freedom of speech. So joking aside, it's an appalling stage. We have to call it out. And all these different crimes now, Yvette Cooper now wants to start basically charging people for offence. If people, the harm, you might get a little tweet, you might sort of say it in a joking sort of way, but if it's upsetting for somebody, it could become a crime.
You know, if it were a crime, that's one thing, but when the idea of having a punishable thing that's not a crime, it's terrifying.
It's absolutely terrifying. I think, therefore, I am arrested. It's the new Descartes thing. It's got to be good.
Now let's do a classic. They're at it again. Gary Lineker and Dame Emma Thompson are fronting an eco-campaign designed to, despite their own air miles ending with more zeros than Gary's licence fee-funded salary, Lineker has responded to the accusations of hypocrisy with a classic "We're all hypocrites" line. Is standard response when those with privilege want to keep on lecturing the rest of us without actually doing anything. Or maybe I'm being a bit harsh. I mean, Gary's actually right. We are all hypocrites.
Yes.
He's also one.
It was a glorious line from Dame Emma. She says, I may well be hypocritical by flying, but I'm conscious of flying, so I fly much less. There you go. So I'm conscious of being hypocritical, therefore that's OK.
Well, I've never unconsciously flown. I've never woken up and like, what air?
Oh, I got out of air. It's going back to the liberal spice, whatever, the LSD. You've got to be very careful unconsciously flying. No, the reality is exactly that. And they say they have to fly because of their jobs. I'm not quite sure that people just fly for the sake of flying. I mean, we want the... what happens here? What they're saying is they don't take private planes as much as they might have done, which is one thing. The reality is we need to call it out. They know, if we could say, well, I know I'm being hypocritical, but I'll carry on anyway. It's an interesting point.
Why would you pick them to front it? That's the thing. It's such low-hanging fruit for everyone now. Instead of discussing the issues they might want us to discuss, we'll be discussing their hypocrisy. So just keep these people off it. Otherwise, you know exactly what's going to happen. This.
Yeah, I think they've picked a real pair of duds, to be honest with you. No, they are a pair of duds.
I love them both. They're wonderful. They speak so highly of you and your fudge. How can you turn... What do you mean they're duds?
They're duds.
You know what I should, though? We should do the hypocrisy check.
Oh, go on, then. How much is that for?
What do you do to minimise your carbon footprint?
What do I basically make sure that others go and do less so I can do more. I mean, that's...
What?
That's what I do, yeah.
I know. I fly all over the place. I'm off to... I go to Cannes, I present the Drama Awards down there. It will take me ages to walk there. I'd have to start now. I then go off to Serbia, where I'm presenting a thing for the royal family, and then I'm going to Japan, where I'm doing a TV show. And
that's all work in this country.
No, I don't really employ me. But it's worth what a weekend that's going to be. No, but that's the reality. I think if you have to go for your job, then that's what you've got to do. And I think that's the reality. Just to be honest about it. And it's no good telling people to say, do this, but don't do it yourself. And it's the hypocrisy. We go back to beforehand what Starmer was saying with all his clothes and his frocky horror show. You work on that sort of basis, it's going to come back to bite you. Just be very careful what you say and why you say it.
Yeah. Welcome back. Now it's time for Culture Corner. Who wants to be a millionaire? Most of us, if we think about it. But, if you're a convicted burglar, Stephen Wilson, that dream became a reality this week after he was awarded over £5 million by a High Court judge for life-changing injuries received whilst working in the prison kitchens. The full story here is that Mr. Wilson was attacked by a prisoner who was serving a life sentence for murder and should not have been left unsupervised, but was left unsupervised. So, no doubt the prison services did actually fail him. But it is true that £5 million in compensation seems quite a lot for a burglar.
Was there not a point where somebody in that process went, do you think 5 million's a bit much?
It's like 5 million minus the amount that he stole. At least that would have been...
Yeah, what?
right.
Like, I understand that he received some very life-changing, permanently altering wounds. Like, some of these I can't even understand. I'm not sure what an incomplete spinal lesion is. But spinal, it doesn't sound
It's not good. And it's a wheelchair and things like that.
Right, so he needs a wheelchair. But I'm still... And where does the 5 million come from?
Shall I tell you?
Yes!
Being a lawyer, I can tell you how it works. And actually, I think it's a massive distraction. You know, it's a massive distraction to say he's a burglar and things like that. The way that the law is supposed to be blind to whatever happens, justice is supposed to be blind. Okay. He's 36 years old. The way that they calculate damage for personal injury, there are three things. One is the general damage, which covers pain and suffering, and there's like a little tariff. If you have an incomplete snap spine or whatever, you get a tariff for that. The other thing is what's called special damages, which cover the expenses to date, but also for the rest of your life, which you might need as a result of your injury. They admitted liability in this case because they said the particular person should not have been in the kitchen having access to knives and so on and so forth. So what happened then, the judge basically has this tariff, so the justice is not just done but seen to be done and working on that sort of basis. The headline that he's a thief, given 5 million, is a bit misleading on that basis. But I'm sure there's a joke there somewhere. No, but that's the reality. It is about justice, it's about tariffs, and that's how it works.
Yeah, you've done my favourite thing I like to do on headliners, is when you look at the headline and realise, you know, whoever wrote the story, I feel sorry for them because it's someone else.
Yes.
It's subs who write the headline.
Yes.
And they're always misleading.
Yeah.
So it's not about that, is it? This is...
It's irrelevant he's a burglar. Because what's the alternative? You turn around, you're a burglar, I can kill you. OK, that's all right. It's got to be fair on that sort of basis. It's a tariff. And look at as I say, he's 36 years old. Maybe he has another 50 years. Maybe it's 100 grand a year, still a lot of money. But maybe he needs stuff in his home and so on and so forth for coping with that sort of lifetime. If he can't work, all of those sort of factors come into it. That is the evidence that gets unpacked in court, and that is how they try and reach it. Of course, they need to work out that it's a fair and equitable way of dealing with it. The mistake here is communication. What they should have done is turn around and say, look, this is the basis upon which we do it. It would apply to anybody in this situation. Right. These are the tariffs, and this is why we've done it this way.
The headline still would have been written in exactly
No, of course it would.
But to answer Diane's question, where does the money come from, though?
Well, it comes from her salary. She's selling the fudge and all the toothpick adverts and stuff she does.
Do you think I sell?
It's got to be good.
Let's move on to this company that exists to sell washing products to consumers. Makes a lot of sense so far. It's telling their customers to wash their clothes less. OK. eCover, if that's what it's called, is calling on their customers to wash clothes less for the sake of the environment. They're an eco-brand. So apparently people feel societal pressure to wash their clothes more regularly than they need to. I mean, I'd say anyone who hasn't sat next to someone who's, you know, not changed their keks in a week, you're probably, if ever you're on public transport, societal pressure should be there a little bit to not stink, don't you think? But
public transport, what's that?
You know, oh, look at him. He flies the way. He's a lawyer, this
I get carried everywhere. There's swans.
Some of us still have to train it.
Peacock. What I loved in this article was a wonderful quote from Catherine Aschenberger, who does a book called Clean, An Unsanitized History of Washing. And she says, in the 17th and 18th century, among the dirtiest centuries in the West, people, including doctors, believed that changing your linen shirt frequently was a safer and more effective way of washing your body with soap. And apparently Louis XIV bathed only twice in his long lifetime as a result of it. So you wouldn't want to go on the tube with him. Don't go on the Jubilee line late at night with Louis XIV. There is a limit to how much you need certain things. I mean, you don't go to funeral directors more than once when you die. I mean, you work on this. This is backed by Lily Cole. Now, Lily Cole has been brilliant together with people like all sorts, Vivienne Westwood and so on and so forth. And what they say, don't buy as much, buy better, but buy less. And then they talk about clothes and so on and so forth. That's how you're protecting the environment in this sort of situation.
Yeah.
You don't need to. If you don't need to wash it so often, don't do it. And it's good to have honesty in brands. And I think I always say that trust comes in on foot and leaves on horseback. And the reality is now, trust in politicians, trust in the media, trust in the police and various others, trust in brands is at an all-time low. To have a brand which is honest about it and say, actually, you don't need that much, and you're going to be better if you don't do it, it's got to be good.
Yeah, but
if you don't trust your washing detergent brand, how do you get through life? Oh, no. I don't somehow I now, the following intro has been written by AI.
Oh, good.
AI is rapidly transforming the creative industry, taking on tasks like design, writing and music composition that were once solely human domains. While AI offers efficiency and new possibilities, it also raises concerns about job displacement. Some fear AI will replace creative roles, while others see it as a tool to enhance human creativity, pushing the industry towards collaborative future. That wasn't actually bad.
No,
it was not terrible.
What I thought was interesting was you delivered it almost in an AI voice.
You were the most robotic thing about it.
It was brilliant. Stephen Hawking.
I love Stephen. It was brilliant. I'm here to put the AI into Britain. I speak around the world. Back to the Futurist. I do as a futurist. We talk about the great advances in AI, both in medicine and creative industries, in many different fields. I always say that AI is our greatest human achievement, but also potentially our biggest existential threat. And it's understanding those capabilities. You might remember last year in Hollywood, they had the big actors strike together with the writers strike.
Yes.
AI was at the centre of that because Goldman Sachs said 300 million jobs are going to be lost to AI. Because it's basically going to automate a lot of those.
It's already happening. I've seen it.
Basis.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have seen it because when you go for an audition, you sometimes get, like, the storyboard through.
Auditions?
Yeah, for the acting things. And sometimes, recently, I've seen very, very realistic, like, it looks like a photo shoot, and that's been created with AI. But also, I've heard chats from other actors who have said, well, they took my voice and they needed to change the script, so they just used AI to modulate my voice, and now they're not hiring me again.
And it's even more advanced than that now, because now you can do dubbing into several different languages automatically. So you can go from the English to Russian to all that different bits and pieces. One of the things about the Hollywood strike is they turned around, they said we could use all these extras, we'd do half a day's shoot, and we could use their image forever, because you can replicate all that sort of stuff. You might remember it started very early on. We did Drake and The Weeknd. There was that composition that basically fooled the world, and that was created by AI. You then had The Pope in a Puffer, you know, on that sort of basis. All these fake images, everything you see can all be replicated by AI, and seeing is no longer believing.
Well, it's like the sports bulletin, the AI sports bulletin that samples Tatiana, and apparently we're not allowed to take a copy of that voice for our own personal use. I keep emailing HR about it. That's a side issue. But this is, I mean, it's all right for you traveling the world talking about AI.
Yes.
It's our jobs out the window.
Oh, no, but it is not. So the best way of using AI is basically first to understand its capabilities, but it is the best co-pilot. As I say, if I meant to mention in the last 5 seconds, that Elon Musk, as I say, his father's on my show all the time. Yeah. And we talk about that, but you talk about the capabilities. Every industry needs to understand how it can make their jobs a lot easier. You might remember last year...
But they're using it to get rid of actors.
Well, then they're not, because now with
But they are, like,
The only reason they're not is because of the deal, though.
Yeah, but
like,
the deal...
as soon as they get a chance to, they will.
But also, you've got certain things. So Darth Vader's voice, you know, we lost him a few days ago. It was some movies he couldn't do that. When they were de-aging, you know, people like Harrison Ford, who appeared in certain movies, a younger version of him was created by AI.
But that's stopping other people having to play a young version of Indiana Jones?
Well, the deal is this. It has to be on the basis that it makes commercial sense. So what you need to look at is the intellectual property rights. The deal that you do with actors and actresses, if you can earn money in your sleep, but you're licensing your image, that's the way to go forward.
I've never made commercial sense.
I don't like it.
Next on Saturday Night Showdown, it's Clown World. We'll be looking at the royal armories trying to get down with the kids, a prank that's going around the world's golf courses, and Trump at a Palestine protest. Welcome back to Saturday Night Showdown. So it's time now for Clown World. The curator of the Royal Armories decided to let his Gen Z staff write his promotional script. What could go wrong? Let's take a look.
Brat summer is over, bestie. It's time to enter your historical era. The Royal Armories is the most Sigma day out in Leeds. No cap. Slay. Small. The line armour is serving main character energy. Pop off, Queen. Henry VIII is the original Rizzler. His codpiece hits different. This is the largest display of arms and armour since the 19th century. Very based. Chat, this diorama is sending me. Dioramas are lit. Our calf ate and left no crumbs. For real. Negative aura points if you miss the gift shop. Our tote bags understood the assignment.
That was believable. I thought he was one of them.
That was Shakespearean. It was wonderful. I love it. Pop off, slay queen. You slayed.
You know what any of it meant? Because it did sound like I'd had a stroke.
We did. We love all of it.
English anymore.
Buy that tote bag. I think that's absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and it's got to be good. Some politicians get it completely wrong because they try and do it for real. That was so tongue-in-cheek. It's brilliant, and everybody's going to go to that site. I can guarantee you by tonight that tote bag is sold out, and that codpiece he taught from Henry VIII. You watch that. Well,
quite a few other sort of heritage sites have done that now, and honestly, when they sort of point at something and said Louis the 12th understood the assignment. I am dying. I love it. And do you know what, though? It's a good way to sort of understand the younger generation. You can sort of understand when they point at something and go, slay? Yeah. And it's like learning a new language. You go,
that's the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. If you've got armories and the word slay is involved, I'm thinking of its original meaning. And this is what you do with this context, which is not what this it's not the way I want to go.
No, you're right. It's like at Christmas time with bobsleighing, all the bobs are worried. So you work, and I say, thank you, I'm here all week. But the reality is that, though, in horrible histories is another brilliant way of teaching kids about history. Get them engaged. History is fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, there's a trend that's sweeping the world's golf courses now to take a look at. It's called fake snake prank.
I love this.
Not to be confused with fake shake. That was a different prank, wasn't it?
Yes.
This is more about entrapping greedy celebrities. No, that one was. This is more about entrapping golfers who don't know what's going on. The fake snake. Take a look. So what you can see here is, I don't know if you can see how this works, you secretly attach a string snake to the back of your friend's clothes, then they run around thinking, there's a snake! And they try and hit the snake, but it follows them around because it's attached. And then you sit around and you laugh until, you know, they get injured.
I am getting PTSD from this. Can I tell you, the biggest spider possibly in the world, actually crept onto my leg and it was attached to me. So I actually feel the pain of these people running away from the snakes, even though they're fake.
Do you know what? I mean, some famously, people have worn brooches like that. They must, during the Supreme Court.
I don't think the spider works on a string, though. It's not going to be the same, is it?
They've got their own webs. They don't need strings. Right, next up, it's Mark Dolan tonight. So what have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Well, Stephen, at number 10, mired in crisis. Panic talks around the cabinet table regarding this very new government that's having a big problem with its reputation around sleaze. So, in my big opinion, why the free gear steer Keir story actually matters. And my take at 10, wild eco-hypocrisy from St Gary Lineker and Dame Emma Thompson. Find out why. We're live from 9.
Excellent. Can't wait for it. Thanks to my panel, the fudge deliverer, maker, but she's not just about fudge. She also does jokes. She's been telling me in the break to make sure I mention it. Diane Spencer and Andrew Eborn. He's a lawyer. I don't say anything at all. The Headliners is back tonight at 11. I shall see you there, where I'll be, hopefully, with 2 other people covering some of the news stories. All right, Mark Dolan's on the way for you next. Sit there and get yourself ready to be entertained. Until next one, have a good one.
Hurrah, hurrah.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.